carrying on with the comparisons that we've got between the two cars, obviously of similar level but different ages.
Definitely different ages.
We're looking at what we're effectively getting interior. So you'll notice we've got a little bit of a thing there. We've got a bit of an experiment going as well. So we've got 360-degree vision. So once we get that video processed, you'll be able to look at that and obviously look around the car as well. So
it's too much technology for me.
So this is the base spec ST line, isn't it?
You can't get no lower of an ST line than this. Basically, you're going upwards from this, opting for bigger screens and things like that. The
screen surround's the same size.
Yeah, I mean, this is you see, I say 6. If Ford get very technical, they say 6.5-ish, but it's only corner-to-corner screen size. Basically because you're not paying for any options with this sort of standard car. The X1, obviously you get half leather seats, red inserts, bigger screen. If you opt for it, you don't always get it, but you have to sort of spec it. And also a CD player, but again, it's one thing you have to get on the ticking list.
So, by comparison to the base spec Fiesta, so let's not bother about we're not bothered about the exterior and the running side. For the interior, compared to the base spec Fiesta, what have we got that's in effect extra?
Well, I'll tell you what I find. We all know it looks very close to the ST, but also there's things that I've noticed actually having a sneaky look at some STs at garages. Things like the carbon fibre on this, exactly the same as what you'll get in an ST. Right. No different shade of darkness or lightness to it or anything. I've seen a few STs and it's exactly the same. So you're getting a sort of thing like that. This one, obviously, you've no heated seats or any sort of dual climate control things like you will get with the ST ones and that.
But what about the base spec Fiesta itself?
Now, heading down to the base Fiesta, you get a slightly smaller screen on some of them.
Okay, so like
fractional,
but...
yeah, not noticeable really, but some are. You go right down to the core one, and you don't get things like the built-in sat nav and stuff with them. Right. Some are very basic.
So basically, it turns into a screen.
Yeah, it's nothing but a little entertainment screen and that.
Yeah.
Also, we do know Ford obviously come with a standard heated windscreen and all that, so you'll get that across the board. Yeah. I have heard even odd one or two of them don't even have aircon.
Right, so you basically it's just a manual.
Yeah. Yeah. Because this is a sort of partial sort of a climate thing. It's got all its usual. If you bang it up full, your aircon comes on instantly and things like that. Yeah. But the thing about Fords, some you get with features on which they may not have meant to have been on, and vice versa with others are lacking some things. So it's a bit of a swings and roundabouts. You are basically getting a bog standard Fiesta with this. It's just slightly garnished.
Yeah.
With things just to take it to that ST line level.
And aircon is standard.
Yeah. I mean, I will say slightly garnished. I mean, the things that they do pop on is obviously racing pedals, which a standard Fiesta would have the normal black pedals. Yeah. Don't even think it'd have a dead foot pedal, actually. You wouldn't have anything like that.
Right.
You wouldn't have none of this carbon fibre. You would have a standard, probably, like Ford used to do, this like piano black trim and things like that. You wouldn't get nothing like that. I don't even think you get a centre speaker on the dash like you do with this.
Oh, yeah, you mean you can't see that because there's everything in the way. But
so simple things like headrest. This has got a small headrest in the middle. I don't think you get things like that.
One thing I've noticed, I mean, you've got the Isofix in there for child seats.
Yeah. That
seems to come as sort of more of a standard thing.
They seem to be doing this standard across the range with the Fiestas, I think, actually. All of them come with a 60/40 split seat, same size boot across the range. There's no different there. Seats, well, these seem to be actually, I'd say, the standard shape of Fiesta seats. The only difference is they are comfy, they are supporting to a point, and they come with a bit of stitching just to brighten things up and a bit of a contrast on the fabric and stuff. Right. But basically that's it. I do know there's tons and tons of trim levels for the Fiesta. They've gone a bit like what they did with the Transit, if you remember at one time. You could go stupidly overboard with tons and tons and tons of different trim level. Yeah. Your sort of Z-Tech Fiesta going upwards, you can spec on the exterior different coloured roofs and wing mirrors and things like that. You could actually do it with this. I could have had a black roof and black wing mirrors. Yeah. But it's all at cost, and it's all of remembering to tick the option boxes.
Room in the back is actually pretty good.
It's not bad. I mean, to say it's a 3-door, yeah, a lot of people always opt for the 5-door versions for easy access, getting in and out easy. Yeah. But for me, I only needed a 3-door. I will say something. No one yet ever has sat on them back seats, and I've nearly had the car 2 years. unless it went in for a service or not like that, they all decided to sit on the back. But no, technically no one else.
Yeah, but you've got no friends.
But this is it. This is it. This is why it's a 3-door. No, I mean, it just shows a 5-door would be wasted on me in a Fiesta form or any form at the moment, because these doors I wouldn't ever be hardly opening, or not a load of people getting in the back and things like that. So it just shows I chose the right one for you. The right one for me, for what I needed at the time. Now, don't get me wrong. If a car came along that I wanted and the only way you could have it is in a 5-door, fair enough, that's what it'd be. But yeah, there's lots of simple things, like you've got your cruise control, things like that on this, which I'm not sure on some of the very basic Fiestas you may not have. You've all your voice activation and stuff and all that for your sync system. You see, some don't actually use the same sync system on the bog standard Fiestas, that's the thing. Yep. So you're really downgrading if you go to a very, very low spec one. But it's whatever you want.
The display though is the same, isn't it? There's no change on the display.
This is the thing. I think the display is more or less the same of this as you get in the other Fiestas, with your bit of information screen and that. It only changes when you go to the full Fat ST.
Yeah, and then you get
it's a full digital display which comes alive when you turn ignition on. With this, ignition's off, but I can still see everything. On the ST, when the ignition's off, it all disappears.
Gone. Yeah.
So there's bound to be differences with a car like that. It's understandable. But everything else, like your start-stop button, all the way everything out, your layout, electric mirrors with this.
All the same.
All the same. The things that really impressed me over it is the steering wheel. Now, I've been in cars of the same age as this, and the steering wheels are rubbish. They feel like you just got hold of a go-kart wheel. Yeah. This, very plush, really chunky. Flat bottomed obviously to mimic the ST. You don't get no badging on the steering wheel because it's not an ST, but you really get a nice, really good, well bolstered leather steering wheel, which is nicely stitched, really well. Turns to full lock effortlessly. Yeah. In about, which is what you need. Yeah. I think it's about the same as ST. I think it's about 2 points, some it turns to nearly 3 or something to go full lock or whatever. It's a really good usable one, and they do claim you can rub anything into this, sun cream, all sorts, and it doesn't harm the steering wheel at all. And they have done it on some videos where a chap tested it. He smeared all sorts into it, and it just straight off, nothing. So there's a lot of very good, tough, hard-wearing, usable things. With this, the shift, obviously you do get the metal strip through. A lot of the more basic ones just get the normal gear top. It looks quite worn, that's the thing. I pointed this out on my review video to Craig. And I was claiming that it looks like I've either got like a ring on, and every time I change gear, something's catching on it and scuffing it. It basically looks like I've been driving it for and it's just the nature of how it's gone. I've never tried polishing it up or all, but it will wear back to that, even if I managed it, and it's just is as it is. I remember my Puma I had, which had a solid metal ball. Yeah. And I actually took that off and polished it up, and when I'd done, it was really mega shiny. Yeah, my MGTF had. Yeah, and the thing is, lower down at the back end, and probably it's just the back end. It's very shiny. It's just had a natural wear. Yeah. But I'm also finding the rubber parts at the edge here, where it look like they start to wear. I don't think they're built to last nowadays, I'm afraid. But as I say, you get a basic Fiesta, you do not get this with the metal strip through. This is a copy of like the ST. Yeah. It's the same sort of setup. So you will get a bog standard rubber top one. So Ford have this habit of playing with things when they're making the cars. They think, we'll put this on that, leave it off that next one. I sometimes think, in that month of building, have they got to get rid of some parts? Yeah. I've even seen some cars which actually come with different alloys than actually a brochurable spec it gets. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just one of those things, and I've always found that with Ford. Variety. You can see it.
And that's the interior of the ST line.
It is. I won't ever say a dull interior. Some might say, well, it does look a lot black on all the footage and video we see and that. It is, but I wouldn't want this car with a cream top. I don't think it'd look right. So the balance is right for me. But it will be each to their own. So all I'll say is, if you want a decent interior with your Fiestas, try and look through every model from really cheap spec going up to this, and see what you want to spec for them. But I find this a usable, workable interior for me, and it's just as I want it.
Okay.
And moving from a Corsa, well, it's leaps and bounds, as you'll see.
Oh dear. Continuing with our comparison between the Corsa SXi and the Fiesta ST Line. We've done the interior of the ST Line. Now we're having a look at the interior of the SXi
Plus. And that's the important bit. Anyway.
So what's the difference between this and an absolute Bogo standard?
Well, the
Corsa?
Bogo standard Corsa of the time was the Life. That was the sort of the base model.
Yeah.
And it wasn't dead basic, but it was quite basic compared, well, I suppose compared to this in a way. Anyway, so yeah, that was the base model. This is the SXi Plus, which was basically, thank you, a run-out model of the Corsa C before the Corsa D came out.
Yep.
I think they only made it for a year or so, something like that, last year production. Anyway, so yes, it's SSI Plus. The main differences, well, over a Life model anyway, you've got a bit more equipment, obviously.
Yeah.
So you've got the alloys on the outside, 15-inch alloys. You've got the, what I think they called them, projector headlamps.
Yep.
With the more sporty look at the front there.
They do actually make a difference to projector headlamps as well.
Yeah,
So
it is quite good actually. No, yeah, they're not bad. Also, a few more luxuries inside. The Life model only came with the driver's airbag. This has got a passenger one as well.
Yeah.
You've got front fog lights. The Life one obviously only has rear ones because more sporty look, of course.
I think a lot of them though only had rear ones as well.
Yeah, a lot of them only had rear ones. Yeah, even some with alloys had just had rear ones.
Well, I know our our 1.2 twin port only has rear fog lamps, not front.
Yeah. Same with my brother's Corsa as well. That only has rear ones. Inside, obviously, like I say, you've got a slightly more sporty look to the steering wheel with this sort of perforated leather.
Mm-hmm.
Same on the handbrake gaiter and the gear gaiter, and obviously a slightly silver trim on here on both them as well, and on the dash. Now
I've noticed with the silver here, it's different to certainly to our 1.2 twin port, which we looked at last episode. Different material, different finish, so it's more of a silvery look rather than
more of a slightly sportier look. I suppose it's meant to sort of be into it. And obviously you've got your white dials, of course, as well.
Yeah, I do actually like the white dials, to be fair.
Which are quite nice. Yeah, again, just to emphasise it as a slightly sportier car. The SXi Plus is a bit of a difference over the standard SXi, which again has all these features.
Yeah.
The SXi Plus basically adds the tinted rear windows. They're factory tinted.
Yep.
Not completely black, but just slightly darker. Yeah. And also these lovely half leather seats.
Oh yeah.
On the SXi, it's just pure cloth.
And that goes straight into the back as well.
Straight into the back, leather headrests as well, of course. And in the middle section there, this nice stitching, which I remember from my friend's car when he had it. Had one of these new. And a slightly different material actually in the inside of the seats as well.
Yeah.
They're roughly the only differences from an SXi to an SSI Plus.
Now, I'd say the door cards are certainly different to the one we have.
Yes, they're leather as well. That's another difference on the SXi Plus. Yeah, because the SXi they're just cloth.
And in a bog standard
Life or something like
that, you'd end up with the cloth interior anyway. There. I noticed it's that I'm pretty sure, as I said in the twin port video, I'm pretty sure that Vauxhall got a job lot of these things. Couldn't sell them on to anybody else, so ended up stuffing as many as they could in their own cars because they're just everywhere.
Yeah, these CD30 radios.
Yeah,
they're in Corsas, Astras, Zephyras, you name it, they're in them. The only difference on this one, like we just mentioned, is it's silver trim on this spec.
On the front panel, yeah.
You'll notice, quite surprisingly actually, there's no aircon on this car.
Yeah, which surprised me, especially with the a couple of years earlier, the twin port 1.2 came with it with either, because to lift it up from the standard 1.2, it came with either aircon or a sunroof.
Yes. Both of which were optional on this car, and neither of which it has. So yeah, they were both. If I remember rightly, I'm going back now.
Yeah.
I'm showing my age now, guys. They were both about £500 each as an option.
I can remember when aircon was a £1,500 option on the car.
I'm saying nothing.
Yes, I was around with Noah.
But yes,
Martin's older than me.
It's actually quite rare as well to see one with the optional aircon. There weren't that many people who, it's the £500 and we'll have
But
that.
yet a lower down car, because bear in mind by the time this was being made, all the cars were twin ports for the 1.2s.
Yeah.
There's the original 1.2.
I think they put it on yours basically as a sort of a standout feature
for the when the twin port first came out.
Yeah,
because ours was one of the first twin ports.
Yeah,
certainly among the first year.
So I think that was the case. That we also actually have on this one, and before I forget, some nice steering wheel controls, which my brother's very jealous about.
We've got those on ours as well. I think all the ones with these had those controls.
Them, yes, because his had a tape player.
Yes.
Cloud pump tape player. Obviously electric mirrors, I think they're on yours, aren't they?
Yes.
Electric mirrors, yeah. And I believe, I'm trying to think now, I can't remember if they had them on the Life or not. I don't think they did.
They didn't.
They did have electric windows on the Life.
Yeah.
So by this point in production, Vauxhall had ditched wind-up windows altogether. But there we go.
Yeah.
But yes, they're the main differences really between this and a more base model car.
One thing I've noticed, I mean, my knees are quite far up. I mean, you've got the child seat in the back, so my knees are quite far up on here. But even so, with your driving position, there's still quite a bit of room in the back.
It's not bad, to be honest.
In fact, with your I'd say if you were sat in Martin's car, you'd probably have to move his seat back a little, but not much. And yet, there's more room in between here than there is in the Fiesta.
Yeah.
But your boot's smaller.
You have to make compromises somewhere. I think what helps in this car is these seats are actually quite thin.
Yeah.
They don't take a lot of room. Modern cars seem to have more of a...
There's a lot of padding in them.
More padding, yeah. Having said that, very comfortable. I've been in much more expensive cars than this that don't have as comfortable seats. I struggle to get a nice, comfortable position in. The Mark 6 Astra that we had featured on Overdrive, the blue one, I did struggle to get a comfortable seating position in this because it was very bolstered.
Yeah.
But this
isn't too bad.
It's lovely, yeah. And I think if you didn't have a coat on, it would be even better.
I've got coat, jumper, shirt, also.
Plenty of storage.
Layers.
Nice big door bins there.
Yeah.
Cubbies down here, storage there. A couple of things here for the air freshener. Fits in just right. So there we go.
I think that's supposed to be a cup holder.
Yes, but I wouldn't really want to use it as one.
There, no.
I don't think it's going to hold much.
What about? Oh, yep, it's got the cup holder in there.
Cup holder, glove box.
Like the old Astras used to have that we had.
And I always think, guys, and we mentioned this with the Mark V Astra video a year or so back now, I can't remember what it was.
That's your other ad.
Yeah. The other Astra, yeah. Very nice. It's a different dashboard design, but it's a similar philosophy. This got sort of criticised, I think, when it was new for having quite a basic looking dash. But actually, I think it's a very, very well designed dash.
I do.
It's a good looking. It's not over styled. You've got everything you need there. All your controls are all clearly laid out. All your ventilation controls, your radio. It's just very. It's just right for the car.
Yeah.
I think they got it bang on with the styling of the dash. You got a little display up here with the sort of 80s looking numbers.
Alarm clock display. Yeah.
Typical Vauxhall of the era. I don't expect anything.
But then again, I mean, this was a crossover between the Mark IV and the Mark V Astra.
Yeah.
It? So this effectively came into its life when the Mark IV Astra, which I
was in
absolutely loathed, was in production, and then went out of production when the Mark V Astra was well into its production run. And by comparison, it is quite plain. But the thing is, the Mark V Astra and that generation all started to show a bit of a cheapness to it. because your dash, your main pod there was exactly the same, whether you were in a Corsa, whether you were in an Astra, whether you were in the Vectra, or the Zafira. They were all identical.
Yeah.
And the one thing they didn't have was the water temperature. They didn't have the water temperature gauge on.
But yes, it's not a bad interior.
Yeah,
and for the size of car, actually, it's actually quite practical. And it's fairly easy to get in the back, which is a complaint that I had with my newer Corsa that I had a year or so ago, the Corsa D, a 14-plate one, was the seat mechanism was really, really awkward.
Yeah.
And the seat was obviously a lot thicker, so access was much more difficult than it is in this. So yeah, progress isn't always made where you think it's made. Maybe Vauxhall should have just taken a leaf out of their own book on that one. That was one of my very few complaints of that car, was seat access. Even for a 3-door, it was awkward. But yes, generally speaking, nice little car. I've spent a little bit of money on it so far, just bringing it up to scratch how I think it probably should have been when I bought it. Again, another issue. But generally speaking, pretty happy.
Good.
It's developed a slight fault with the bonnet catch, which will get dealt with as soon as possible. But other than that, I'm very happy with it, yeah.
Good.